Canada's former finance minister, and he joins us as part of our breaking news coverage. Joe, always nice to see you. Wow, what a 12 hours or so. Where do we start? Let's start with Chrystia Freeland. What do you make of this news?
Well, I think it was absolutely critical that the Prime Minister move immediately to appoint a new finance minister. Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, the former governor of the Bank of England, was touted as someone who might take the position. He's apparently been advising the Prime Minister on economic matters, something which allegedly the immediate former finance minister didn't know. But he doesn't have a seat, and it would take a little while to win one. So they needed really to get someone inside. The most senior person in the cabinet after the Prime Minister is the Deputy Prime Minister, and Chrystia Freeland is going to take on that extremely challenging role without, I guess, a direct background in finance or economics, but a fairly extensive background now, 5 years in government. And
somebody who covered finance extensively as a journalist for many, many years, and that important tool of being able to communicate, especially with global markets. I mean, you talked about it being a challenging portfolio, Joe. What do you think, as this all plays out today, the first order of business for a new finance minister for Chrystia Freeland should be?
Well, the first thing she wants to do is create confidence that she's competent, that she has a handle on where things are going, that she's got a clear vision, and that she's at sync with the government. I mean, that's absolutely crucial, and it shouldn't be impossible to do. But she's got to, be solid in the next couple of days. What people, of course, are going to be most interested in going forward, other than her personal involvement, is what the government intends to do. And there's potentially a big disconnect between what some people are hoping for and perhaps what Morneau was advancing, which was a modicum of prudence now that we're up to a deficit of, I think, over $340 billion, debt approaching $1.2 trillion, that there would be a modicum of prudence going forward in an extremely difficult and challenging economic environment. So are we going to go that route with a little bit of restraint, which we haven't seen much of before, or is it going to be the great reset and an opportunity that a lot of people on the left see this crisis creating, which is things are really bad, so why not make them worse? Well, that's not the way they would articulate it, but why not take advantage of a crisis to make some fundamental changes in the role of government, how big it should be, how much support there should be, basically how far left is the government wanting to go. And we heard allegedly there was a conflict on matters of policy that emerged fairly recently between the Prime Minister and the former Minister of Finance, Bill Morneau. Now, one's first reaction to that is a little bit of skepticism, because for 5 years we had a government that didn't seem particularly concerned about fiscal prudence, and they built up a additional debt of $100 billion. And I had been, saying for some time, and as others have as well, during a period of growth, you don't build up debt. You actually, husband your resources and focus on economic growth, so that when the inevitable downturn hits, you're in better shape to cope with it. No one anticipated COVID-19, but everybody knew that there would be a downturn, and in this case, it came in spades, and so we have, building on that fiscal hole, much bigger one. And Bill Morneau didn't seem to be much of an agent of restraint during that time. Maybe he finally got religion. We don't know. That's one of the many stories that have come out as to why he decided to leave at a moment of great economic challenge. Very unusual and not particularly credible.
Joe, we're almost out of time. I want to squeeze one more in for you. I think you've been raising some important issues. In fact, I would push back on that narrative we saw play out in the press on policy disagreements over the last week, because a senior source had told me one of the key reasons that Bill Morneau wanted to meet yesterday with the Prime Minister was to address some of what had been happening, some of the leaks that were out there, raising this issue of confidence. So if we can assume that there are sometimes agreements and disagreements between a finance minister and a prime minister, tell us about this relationship from your outside view of Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, and what that relationship might look like, given that we do have some context, given those heightened trade talks between the U.S. and Canada and Mexico for so long.
Well, look, there are some critical issues. I mentioned some of them. International relations, our economic relations with the United States, with whom we trade 76% of our GDP, and of course with China and other countries. So I would have hoped that there was basic agreement between the two on where the economy is going to go. And if any of these stories are to be believed, it would suggest that Chrystia Freeland is willing to go along with this, ever increasing spending. I mean, it's going to have to come down, of course, from what it is, but just how much and what kind of deficits we're looking at, I don't know. But the relationship between a prime minister and a minister of finances is a critical one, and there shouldn't be much daylight. I mean, certainly in my case, I was at one with the prime minister on the economic direction of the country and on fiscal policy. And one would have to assume that Chrystia Freeland is as well, although she hadn't been, perhaps thinking directly about it. So what does that mean? And that's what we're going to find out. There's all sorts of reasons why the Prime Minister may have lost confidence in Bill Morneau, and the WE scandal was obviously a part of it. But going forward, what is critically important is where is the country going to go economically, and there's a big question about that, and we'll start to find out in the next few days and weeks.